Hello, beautiful souls. I have a confession to make today, but before I get to that, I want to just wish you a happy Chinese New Year, where we've just entered the year of the dragon. And I'm so excited about this year because it's just, I feel the power. I hope you can too. And I think we can really make a lot out of this year in terms of stepping forward into our soul purpose and whatever it is that you want to do this year. There's a lot of energy, right, that is behind this year, and especially because it's a particular type of dragon, and that relates to my confession. Okay, so over the past couple of weeks, I've said several times that, but actually, I want to just say it's like I want to put it in this way, that I lied. Okay, I lied to you repeatedly because I was saying that this is the year of the fire dragon. And I'm just saying, kind of tongue in cheek lied. Of course, I didn't intend to. But I had put out an email to my newsletter list, and one of my readers emailed back to me that said, "Hey, it's actually not the fire dragon, it's the wood dragon." And I looked at that, I was like, oh my gosh, she's absolutely right. Um, I've been saying fire dragon for the last like 2 weeks. And so that really kind of got my head thinking, right? And in terms of like little untruths that we tell ourselves. I think it's easy to say that I didn't lie, right? Because there's a lot of baggage around that word lying, right? If you've grown up, or if you have any kind of ancestral roots in any kind of religious tradition or spiritual tradition that puts a lot of guilt and shame on pretty much anything, then it's really easy to internalize this feeling of any time that we find that we're wrong, to not want to admit it, or to kind of want to hide that. So I want to, one thing that I want to do this week, okay, and is to just kind of bring that idea forward of, well, we all lie to ourselves to a certain extent, right? That's why we're on this awakening journey, so that we can move forward past those little lies and find our true self, our true nature, our true purpose, all that stuff, right? If we're seeking for the truth, it means that the truth's been obscured at some point. Um, and so I want to just encourage each and every one of us, especially myself, right, to have compassion with ourselves. When we dig down and we start digging down into ourselves, we will find untruths. And sometimes we see them in other people. A lot of times it's easier to see in other people than it is in ourselves. And so what I really want to kind of bring forward is that we can do this with compassion, right? And compassion doesn't necessarily mean that we just kind of fall into line with the untruth, because there's a lot of that happening out there in the world, right? And so we need to be able to, first of all, discern, the real truth. Like, and sometimes it takes somebody else telling us, right? So I'm so grateful to this reader for saying, hey, look, just actually speaking up and saying, hey, look, you're wrong. And so that I thought was amazing. But what it did was it triggered all sorts of thoughts in my head. It's like, okay, well, why was I basically lying, right? And again, not meaning to, good intentions, but it's like as it was, because I'm telling people it's a fire dragon, they're getting that in their psyches, right? So it triggered this self kind of like reflection, right? And it, and it kind of made me think, was like, well, why did I think that? Because 3 weeks ago or whatever, I was saying wood dragon, and all of a sudden it switched. And so sometimes we got to go through this little dance of kind of like going in and figuring out, it's like, well, why wasn't I telling the truth to myself or to somebody else or whatever it was? In my case, I'm really excited about this year, and I'm working with a lot of fire energy. I've got a lot of Aries in my chart, right? And so that's part of why, because I was really identifying with that. There's Chiron is in Aries right now. That's the wounded healer. My Chiron's in Aries. And so I think there's and it's also conjuncting the North Node right now, which means it's like all these wounds and stuff are coming up to be healed. So I think there's an aspect of that. There's an aspect of I was looking forward to um, the next dragon, which will be a fire dragon in 2036. And so there was an aspect of, I think there was a little bit of fear, a little bit of excitement, right? So, we can look and see why we did things, and that takes some compassion. But I think also just to kind of really examine ourselves, right? And to be aware of if somebody's bringing up something for you. uh, Often it's like this little knee-jerk emotional ego reaction. It's like, oh, that can't be true. I mean, in this case that wasn't true, because all I had to do was look it up. It's like, oh, it is a fire dragon, oh my gosh. But there's other things that can happen, right? If somebody just tells you that you're wrong, right? It's so easy to be like, oh my God, no, I'm not wrong, right? That little reflexive fighter comes forward. And so sometimes it's great to just take a little deep breath, right? Um, and also looking at the ways that we tell untruths, right? Often it's out of kind of any kind of trauma that we've had, right? That will make us not be in our truth. Either we had to shut up, right, in order to not be beat up, or whatever it was that creates patterns. And so I feel like this is a really, really powerful week, this week that we're in right now, because we've got that Chiron North Node kind of dynamic happening in the sign of Aries, right? Which, regardless of where your Chiron or North Node are, Aries is a sign of individuality, right? And the North Node has to do with kind of like our future, our potential, our purpose, and Chiron is these wounds that come up, right? And so I feel like the time that we're in right now is a really powerful time for flushing up those little lies that we've told ourselves over the years, whether it's justified or not, whether we knew it or not, right? And really start to evaluate our truths, and to step into that sense of, how can we be honest with ourselves, right? And honest with others, and to do it in a compassionate way. Okay, so I'm going to pull a card in just a moment from this Soulful Woman deck, because I feel like this is a deck that is really beautiful with compassion and self-love, just to help us to help to facilitate this process of honesty and looking within and healing those wounds, finding those untruths, looking at them, in the pure light of day, without, I shouldn't say it's not without judgment, because we do need to judge if it's true or not, right? If it's actually truth or not, but we do need to do it with compassion, right? And so, by the way, Wood Dragon is the wood energy is this really upward moving energy that's super, super charged with life, the life force energy. It can help you to move forward with whatever that you want to do, right? Whatever you want to do in your life. And so when we heal these wounds, that's when we're putting ourselves into this position of aligning with the life stream. And this year is one that's really, giving us that powerful extra oomph to really live with amazing purpose, right, and joy, once we clear out whatever untruths that we're working with. Okay, so I'm gonna shuffle this deck. We'll pull a Soulful Woman card to help us here in this week of February 12th through 18th. And one thing that I know that I'm not lying about right now is that my next gathering for my membership group for light workers and soul seekers is going to happen next Sunday, the 18th. And I've put the link to learning more about that in the description box. And here we go. Let's pull a card for this week of February 12th through the 18th. And the card is Anger as My Sacred Ally. Interesting card, because that really does have a lot to do with fire, right? The fire element is the element that can often is associated with anger. And so sometimes, a lot of times, we repress our anger, right? And because either it's not safe to show it, or we're shamed for having anger, or we're afraid of our own power, right? And so when in this beautiful period of time, when we're working with this Aries energy, right? In with Chiron in the North Node, with this amazing healing capacity, this is um, an encouragement. As we look into ourselves, find our untruths, it may flush up a lot of anger of some sort. Anger, against ourselves, anger against maybe parents or people that we grew up with, maybe, other people that we're in relationship with, whatever it is. This is saying, I listen to the messages within my anger and use it as a positive force for good, right? Anger usually does flush up in order to show us that we're feeling violated somehow, or we are, or somebody, it could be feeling angry about somebody else feeling violated. All right, so it's when we pay attention to those feelings of anger, it can help us to acknowledge where we might have been violated, or maybe we violated somebody else's rights, right? If we think of maybe somebody was angry with us, right? And to acknowledge where anger might have been justified, and then that allows us to see where, well, maybe the anger is misdirected, or maybe the anger is, maybe I'm steeping in my anger and holding on to that and feeding off of it, right? Rather than letting it flush up and feeling where it's pointing to the truth and then healing, right? So anger is my sacred ally, I feel, is a really, really powerful card for this week. If you're not feeling anger, that's fine. Maybe you really have worked through any anger issues that you have. But I encourage you to really look deeper. Look deep, and also look to resentment, okay? Because resentment is what happens when anger gets suppressed, when we push it down and push it down. And sometimes we don't even recognize it as anger, right? Especially if you're like me, if you have like a Chiron in Aries or something, where it's kind of sometimes works with repressing the self and making us repress the anger. We want to look to where we're feeling kind of valueless, right? And dig down. If you're feeling like powerless, anywhere where you're feeling kind of powerless, you want to really dig down and feel, okay, is there something that maybe I should be angry about, right? Maybe I need to bring up some feelings of anger in order to flush through, because it's pretty much impossible to reach forgiveness, right, if you haven't actually processed those feelings of anger first. Okay. All right, so I am hoping that this is a great week for you. It feels like a really bright, positive week to me. And if you like this video, let me know, because I'm thinking I may do a weekly reading from now on. And let me know what you liked, what you didn't, what you found true, anything that you found false in what I said. And one more reminder about this whole message for this week is, anybody that you're listening to, that you're tuned into, that you're following, that's great. It's great to follow people. I follow people, but it's always really, really important to use that discernment, right? in that not everything that comes out of anybody's mouth is going to be 100% true. So we always want to be really checking in with our own inner guidance, with our own inner wisdom, with our own knowledge, right? And it's okay to point it out, right? To bring out into the light if you notice something that is off, that's not quite right. Don't feel shy about, and certainly, like, you can tell me anytime if you hear me saying that something that's not right. Feel free, challenge. There, I might be out of truth, you might be out of truth, right? But either way, we want to bring it up into the light and correct it, and make sure that everything is balanced and true. I think that's probably a core practice for this year of the dragon. Have a wonderful day, a wonderful week, and remember, you were born to be free.